Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today I have a video from JCF-150 in his Tier 10 Soviet destroyer, the Khabarovsk. And I promised you I'd have one where he didn't explode at the start because a couple days back in Porsche Racer's video, JCF went into a cap and basically exploded. And this was another game I had on hand at the time, and it really teaches an important lesson, and that lesson is do not use your damage control to repair the first fire. If battleship drivers could just learn this, the games I have in things like my Kutuzov and Atlanta would just not be as good. But so often you light one fire, they instantly hit that damage control button. You wait 15 seconds or so that the ability is no longer active, and then you just start pumping HE into them, light 4 fires, and watch them burn away. And it may seem a little cheap, and I know some people definitely hate it, and it can be frustrating when you're in a battleship, but you can't put out that first fire. My personal reaction in a battleship, or really anything that has it, if I've got repair party, the first fire, I hit repair party, because that repair party will basically run for the exact same duration as the fire and almost offset the entirety of its damage. All the fire damage is repairable, so you're not losing anything there. Then, if you get a second fire, you don't necessarily have to put that out right away because you're still recovering health. And you can wait for a third or fourth fire to hit you before, using damage control, putting them all out. Now granted, things are going to change a little bit tomorrow, I believe, when 0.6.0 hits and the skill tree changes, because the new one of the new skills for reducing chance of fire also has the unique ability in that the two kind of superstructure fire locations merge into one. So rather than the ship having 4 locations, it only has 3. So that's going to change the dynamic a bit, but not too much. So off the start, you can see JCF doing what the Khab does best, and that is just using its guns. The Khab has some good torpedoes, but its guns are definitely effective. And you'll notice another tactic he's using here. He fired at the first BB, lit a fire, he can see the damage ticking, he knows the fire started, and a battleship has 2 choices, either let the fire burn or put it out. So that Montana's doing probably the right thing and letting it burn. In the meantime, JCF has switched targets and is trying to start fires on others, so that the second that Montana puts out his main set of fires, he goes right back to him, and that's who he's going to go to work on. Because now damage control has been burned, so anything you light will stick. And it's once you know that skill's been used, then you focus down a target. Don't just sit there shooting the same target, trying to light 4 fires on something that's going to let 1 burn. Mix it up. Try to get 3-4 fires going on 3 or 4 ships. And you're going to have a really good time doing that. And I've actually got a really good game for you in the next couple days of my Kutuzov doing just that. And one thing I am going to mention right now, tonight is going to be a long night for me because, to my knowledge, 0.6.0 comes out tomorrow. At least that's what I've been told by a couple people. I didn't see it anywhere on the website, so it took me by surprise. But I've got probably 10 replays in reserve that all need to be recorded tonight. So if some of my replays over the next couple days, I start to sound loopy, it's probably for that reason. So JCF gets a good torpedo in there on that Montana, starting a flood, and just goes back to shooting. And I am just going to sit in third person here. JCF zooming in and out a bit much, and I know some people have complained about that. So I'll just sit in third person. He's shooting the Iowa, everyone kind of knows what you lead a battleship by. And just focus on the play rather than maybe the aim for a bit. So obviously the Montana has repaired the flood. So you go back to the Montana, back to shooting him, because now he's not going to be able to put the fires out. And this game's definitely a bit of a slow burner, but already 5 minutes in, he's got 87,000 damage and counting, and has most of his hit points too. And that's a big thing. With these high tier destroyers, even if you can't stealth fire, which if you take a quick look at the rings, the detection is 14.6, he's at 13.5 max range, he's not going to be stealth firing, but you don't have to be able to stealth fire to do a lot of damage. By just doing circles, big weaves, and changing your course and speed, at 10 or 12k, ships are going to have a really hard time solidly connecting. They might get a hit here or there, but for the most part, they're not going to be ending your life in a single volley. Meanwhile, you can rack up 102,000 damage. So he's back to focusing on this Yamato, who's slowly backing away. I don't know if they've got a damage controller not available, but he's going to find out pretty soon, because there's the fire. The Montana's still burning, still taking up damage. So he looks at the Donskoy. No, back to the Yamato, or sorry, this Iowa. Did I say Yamato a second ago? And holy crap, he's already got a Witherer. We're, what, 6 minutes, like 15 seconds in, and he's already picked up a Witherer for the amount of damage he's done to all these ships. And that kind of says something about the strategy. Now, of course, a good chunk of this is made possible by the allies doing the spotting. And that's another thing that I see so many destroyer players do wrong. You can't pop smoke to start shooting targets if you don't have any allies nearby. You know, if both those guys were dead, none of these targets would be spotted. JCF would have been just sitting here waiting for something. And it's so frustrating, especially driving any of the cruisers with a smoke where you've set up, you're relying on a destroyer who's out on a flank kind of peating and doing that, and then they go, oh, I'm going to drive into smoke too. And you lose all spotting, and then both of you become useless. So you can see the Torps there, the Donskoy is going to dodge them, the Montana did too, but honestly, he doesn't need torpedoes to do damage. That Montana's nearing his death. His smoke ran out. He could have probably been a little more on top of that, knowing his smoke would be out and moving beforehand. He gets away with it though. The Montana fires, misses, and I find, especially in these Russian destroyers because of their speed, people tend to under-lead you once or twice before really figuring out how much lead to give you. So you can use that to your advantage. There's another fire on the Montana, and at this point, JCF's doing the right thing. He's just driving straight away, open the distance. Everything's kind of got inside, you know, inside or close to natural detection range. That is not a place you want to live in your destroyer. So you create some distance, let those fires burn. You know, he could potentially here just stop shooting altogether and just break contact, and it looks like that's what he's about to do, because he hasn't fired. There's contact broken, you know, 8.7 just outside the Montana, pretty much coinciding with the cooldown on that enlarged circle for after firing. And unfortunately, the Donskoy radars him. And this is something, once again, a lot of people I'll find really freak out about, especially the Russian radar. It's got really good range. You know, someone will be sitting in their smoke happily, and then all of a sudden they're radared, and they just go to full steam, drive right out of their smoke. With the Russian radar, sometimes your best option is to just kind of sit pretty, you know, move forward or aft a little bit, and just try to throw them off, because it's up in 15 seconds. If that was an American radar or a hydroacoustic search, then you're in trouble, but it all comes back to knowing what is around you and what is spotting you. You know, when I'm playing with friends, and they probably hate me for this by now, but if they go, oh, I'm detected by radar, I'll go, no, that's hydroacoustic. It's the Qckslvrslash right beside you. And they're like, same difference. Well, to me, it's not. And it's kind of the way I think. And the reason is, once again, in my head, if I hear radar, I go, okay, 15-second cooldown, 30-second cooldown. Whereas hydroacoustic is, you know, 3.5 minutes, or longer on some ships, I believe. So it sets a frame in your mind for how long you're going to be potentially detected for, and that's why I'm a stickler for things like that, because if I'm not looking directly at the situation and I just hear that, I go, okay, I need to be looking out, 10, 11K, I can't get any closer because that's the radar, whereas hydroacoustic is, 5.5. So when you're playing DDs, any of the ships that do better stealthy, even cruisers, just always be aware of that. On battleships, you're kind of always detected, so it's not as big a deal. The other big thing I'd point out, because I've been asked of late by a number of people to do some tutorials on the best things to do in each class of ship, and I might be doing that. My How I Play series is kind of my tutorials right now, and the reason for that is I don't believe there's this is the canned answer on how to drive this thing to get the best result, because it always comes down to reading the map and just the situational awareness, and I'd say JCF has done a very good job of that this game. He's never really pinned himself into a situation he can't just drive away from. Now he is getting close to the map border, but once again, the closest target is that Yamato, 11.3 kilometers, and of course he aces him. But had he had the opportunity to break contact there, then he would have just been able to drive off to the east into the open. Now the Yamato may have ended him, but he's definitely getting at least one torpedo in here, gets a flood, picks up the high caliber, and this is where you just kind of start watching the top corner. How long is this going to tick for? At almost 1,000 damage per tick, a torpedo and a flood can be a very effective way to extend some damage post-battle. But back to what I was saying, situational awareness is the key to World of Warships. Always looking at your minimap, knowing who's where and where they might appear from, and trying to predict that. That's how you keep yourself alive. There's no kind of canned, here is what you do. There's some general strategies to certain ships based on where their armor is, how their guns perform, but for the most part, those seem pretty straightforward to me. Now, maybe they're not, and maybe I need to change that, so comment below if you think I really should be doing a tutorial series on the basic play of each ship type, and by all means I'll do it. I'll hop into a, probably tier 5 I think is where the ships kind of behave like themselves, and just do a basic kind of run through of the things you need to be doing. And JCF's about to pick up another kill with that flood, getting the flesh wound, and up to 217,000 damage as his team finishes off the final enemy ship. Now perhaps that wasn't the most thrilling game, but you certainly can't argue with the result. 441,000 credits, 7,400 experience, Witherer, high caliber, 'tis but a flesh wound, 217,000 damage, a whole crap ton of shells, couple torpedoes, and 2 kills. And he really prevented all those battleships from just pushing up from the flank. And the one thing I'd say JCF did the best that entire game was he managed his space. He never got caught. And that is something that so often happens to ships in an outnumbered situation. They panic a bit, they drive into an island, or they drive themselves into a portion of the map where they just can't keep their distance. He always managed to open the range, keep himself far enough back that he wasn't getting hit hard, until the Yamato scored a lucky one right through the rear of his ship, ending his game. But he got revenge, picked up the kill, and ended the Yamato's life with a well-timed flood. Anyways, thank you JCF very much for submitting the video. Anyone else who would like to, Qckslvrslash@gmail.com. Please wait until tomorrow and the patch comes out, because I have enough videos for this current patch, and I'm probably not going to get through them all. Anyways, I don't think I could take any more. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.